What's the best way to inspire, engage, and motivate beginner piano students at their very first lessons? Is it about grabbing out the method book and chucking on the music rack and pointing at middle C, showing them where it is and starting to read? Or is it about exploring the whole piano, creating musical stories, improvising, harmonizing, transposing, playing games, playing by ear? If you ask me, beginner piano lessons should be some of the most exciting, creative, and innovative lessons that you ever teach. And you can do it all without even opening a method book. Let me show you exactly how to get started in today's video. Hi, I'm Tim Topham, and in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can teach your beginner students in a creative way without opening a method book. I call this my no book beginner framework, and it's designed to give you ideas of everything that you can do in your teaching for anything up to 10 weeks with beginner students that doesn't require any reading. Now, there's a huge amount of evidence to suggest that the best ways to start music learning, the music learning process, is through listening and copying and chanting and singing and improvising and creating well before anything to do with reading is introduced. And it's why I'm so passionate about helping teachers to realize that the research is out there that this is the best way to do things and to help give them the skills they need to do it. It's a little bit like learning a language. We would never expect to give a beginner, a child who's learning their first language, a pen and paper and reading and writing to do before they can even say something in their language. So, why would we do it for music? Let's give students the skills they have to be able to create music and explore it and understand it and chant it and feel it well before we expect them to start reading it. Now, the framework that I'm going to give you in this video is just that. It's just a framework. It's a starting point. It's an idea, a set of ideas that you can use in your teaching. And you could use this for just one student. You could use it for all your students. You could use it for one lesson or 10 lessons or 6 months of lessons. It all depends on you, what kind of teaching you're doing, how much you're enjoying it, and what your students are like and how old they are and what their skill levels are. So it's an incredibly flexible framework of ideas for creative beginner teaching. It's going to help you get students set up with the correct sort of technique and sitting position. They're going to be immersed in these kind of creative music making activities. They're going to be given the fundamentals of meter and rhythm and time and pitch, and they're going to feel it in their bodies. They'll be able to transpose, they'll understand what that means, and they'll be able to hear and understand harmony. They'll listen and sing and be able to recite and have a conversation with you in music, and they'll be 100% engaged and having fun. I know they're going to love it. I know you're going to really enjoy exploring it as well. This lesson and this video forms part 1 of a 10-part series. So I've got actually 10 weeks worth of lesson plans here fully laid out for you. It's all step by step. It shows you what to do, pretty much what to say. It gives you examples of musical examples that you're going to need. And it also shows you the practice that the students will need to do. Because I found that when I first started teaching in a more creative way, I'd often wonder what to give a student to do for homework that night. It's very easy when they've got a method book, isn't it? Because you just say, okay, well, let's learn the next piece or whatever it is. When you're teaching in a more creative way, you need some of those ideas that students can go on with at home. So for each lesson, I give you not only some objectives and things to remember, give you the full lesson plans and then some practice notes at the end. I think you're going to absolutely love this, and you can grab the first lesson plan absolutely free right now from timtopham.com/beginners. So that's TIMTOPHAM/beginners. And you'll be able to also find on that page a discount code, because the rest of the lesson plans are all part of a course that I've released to my Inner Circle community. And if you'd like to get access, then I have left a coupon code on that page for you. So really special deal. If you'd like access to this and all my courses, my Teaching Pop course, my 12-bar blues course, it's all there in amongst everything else that is part of my community. So if you want to find out more, again, head to timtopham.com/beginners. I reckon pause this video now if you haven't done so. Download the first lesson plan, because as soon as we come back, we're going to get started. All right, the first thing that you really must do is get to know the child. And it kind of goes without saying. I'm not putting in too many notes here about it. Find out about the child, what they like to do, what they do on the weekends, what their favorite hobby is, what their favorite colors are. Just get to know them before you do anything to do with music. I think it's one of the most important things. It's fundamental, and it's about building rapport and a relationship with your student that could potentially last for, well, years and years to come. So set that tone right at the beginning. I've given you a couple of links that you might want to read about if you have time and would like some more information about that. The next thing that I do is I ask all my students, what would you like to play? It's pretty rare that a beginner comes into a lesson with me that who hasn't tried to play something before or learned something already on the piano. They might have been taught it by a sibling or their parent. They might have picked it up from a friend at school or learned something on YouTube. Whatever it is, ask them to play it. And I often say, look, it doesn't matter how simple or hard it is. It could be Mary Had a Little Lamb. It could be 3 notes, whatever it is. I'd love to hear you play. And they're the words that I recommend you use. I would love to hear what you could play. Don't worry about how they're sitting or standing or using their fingers or anything like that. Just get them to play something to you. Show excitement and be really enthusiastic about whatever it is, no matter how simple or badly played or whatever it is, okay? What I've got before is a lot of students will come in and do this. Or they might do, or they might play, play with one finger like this. Okay, whatever it is, totally cool. Be really excited to hear them play and say how fantastic it was. And then the next step I always take is to, as I say in the lesson plan, explore this idea of what can you play. So take it to another level. The simplest way to do that is to play along with the child. They'll absolutely love it. If they haven't had the chance to play along with someone before, they're gonna love this. So if they're doing this, then play along with them. G chord and C chord in a little vamp, easy. If they're doing this, most people know this accompaniment, right? So try and play along with them. Maybe they could play Twinkle Twinkle. So you could play along with that, or maybe you could help them make up a really quick 1-2 minute arrangement of it. Maybe they could start up high on the piano and you could do a nice twinkly little Alberti based thing, and then they could move down in the middle of the piano and you play a little bit. Maybe you could put a beat on, or a drum beat of some kind, or maybe they could play it on your digital piano with a funny sound. I don't know, whatever it is. Try and think of something creative that you can do that takes whatever they can play up a little step or two. If you can play along with them, that's going to be one of the best things to do. Okay, so that's the first part of the lesson. I guess this is the first 5 or 10 minutes, depending. Now, if they come into the lesson and they don't want to play anything, or they can't play anything, or they say they can't play anything, encourage them a fair bit. So it doesn't matter how simple it is, I'd love to hear you play something. Now, I have had students who won't play anything, or haven't learned anything, or genuinely just are too afraid to, or whatever it is. And that's totally fine. My next step is to just get them sitting right at the piano and then move on to the little improvisations that we've got coming up next. So you've got a couple of ways that you can approach the next thing. The next 2 parts, one of them is getting them sitting right at the piano, which is obviously really, really important in that first lesson. And the second step is doing some improvising on the black keys with a number of different accompaniments that I've given you. You can do either of these 2 in whatever order that you wish. As long as both are covered, I think it's totally fine. So if the student, for example, hasn't played anything and you've now got nothing to do with them in regard to what can you play, then I'd probably go straight to the black key improvisations, which I'm going to do after this next section. If they've just had a bit of a play and had some fun, then I would get them sitting right at the piano and make sure that's spot on. So how do we do that? Well, the best thing to do is demonstrate. Grab mum or dad over if they're available and make sure they're listening to this, because it's so important. We all know that at home, some kids are on stools or rocking chairs or playing keyboards with those wobbly cross brace stands. Like we've got everything to work with, right? So at this stage, we just have to work with what we've got and get them set up as best we can. So the first thing I do is get the bench height right. I just ask them to just put their hands on the piano and approximately get their arms parallel. That's what we always want to aim for, right? Feet flat on the ground. If it's a small child, perhaps putting them up on a box. I always tend to have with a small child a box or something. You can get guitar pedal footrests. You can get pedal extenders, whatever it is. Get the child so they're sitting comfortably, preferably with knees at right angles to the floor. That's a really great way to start. Okay, and then we've got the issue of all the upper body stuff. And so I tend to use this groovy little ladybird. Many of you will see this, have seen this, and many of you I know already use it. You can buy one of these. It's spongy, foamy kind of material. You can buy them from Amazon, and they're great for getting a nice, comfortable, rounded hand shape for a child. So I tend to use this. I call her Linda Ladybug, and what I do is I'll get them get them to start with their shoulders, preferably. And I think actually this is the way the guys at Piano Safari do something really, really similar. And talk about the fact that we just want our shoulders to hang down from our arms really comfortably and loosely. And I'll pop Linda up there and they can say hello and get them to make sure they're nice and relaxed. A great way of doing all of these kind of technique and sitting position activities is to do the opposite first. So I'll get them to scrunch their shoulders right up high, right up to their ears, and then relax it all the way down. Oh, and Linda likes that. She likes it. Really nice and comfortable. All right, so that gets their shoulders in the right position. You could do that with both arms, but more or less, if they can do one, the other one will be in the same position. So then Linda can travel down to the elbow. We want a nice, relaxed, loose elbow just hanging from the shoulder, and then with their hands just lightly on the keys, we want to explain that Linda doesn't really want to travel down into this valley and then back up, and she doesn't want to have to go over a big mountain. She just wants to be able to travel more or less a straight path through to your hands, and then she's going to be able to fit in. I ask them to lift up the garage door, which is the thumb here, and fit in under the hand in a nice, comfortable position like that. Okay, so you can use whatever you want. Some kind of soft toy, manipulative, can be really great for little beginners. They'll really get it, and you can make it a fun story too. So something like this can be great, and then they can end up sitting on the piano watching the child, or you can, if you see that they're doing something weird or they're perhaps doing this, and you can say, Linda's grumpy about the wrist position here, and we can get her to fix it. Okay, so that's just one way of getting them to think about the position that they're sitting at the piano. Another great thing to do is demonstrate the wrong way. So actually say, all right, I think you're ready to be the teacher now. So get them to take your chair. It's always exciting. And you can sit at the piano and demonstrate a really bad sitting position and get them to help correct you. Sitting up straight, getting the wrists up, etc. Okay, so all of those things are great fun for the child. And through this whole set of lessons and all your beginner kind of teaching, you'll be wanting to come back to this and make sure that you've got it right. Now, one little word about technique. Everyone has a different approach to technique. There are some similarities, I realize, but some people will disagree with everything that I've just shown you. Totally cool. Do it your way, as long as I think we're in agreement that we want to get the child set up in the right way at the piano. So if you don't agree with the parallel to the floor or the position of the hand or loose shoulder, whatever it is, that's totally fine. I'm not forcing you to follow my instructions. This is just my approach. It's a way that I find works really, really well. And so you can work it in with your own ways of doing technique. I know that a lot of people are very specific about the way they teach technique. So take it or leave it, but that's my approach. All right, the next thing to do is get them improvising on the black keys. Kids love doing this. And what I've given you in the lesson plans is a number of improvisation accompaniments. So let's take the first one. First thing I get them to do is find the black keys and the black key sets. Now, if you've got a really young beginner, I've given you a link to a great game by Nicola Canton of Colourful Keys. She's got an off-the-bench activity for finding and organising all the sets of black keys you can do on the floor. Great little game, just takes a minute or two, and then they can come to the piano and go, oh yeah, 2 black keys, group groups of 3 black keys. So we want them to be able to find all of them. So I'll get them to, using one hand, fingers 2 and 3, just playing the sets of 2 black keys. Or they could do it with their left hand, they could do it going downwards, they could do it going upwards, whatever it is. And the same with the sets of 3 black notes. Now, for lesson 1, we would love to have them play with a beautiful rounded hand shape, nice floating wrist and all this kind of stuff, right? But from my perspective, given the limited time you've got, I just want them to get in there and start making music. So we're going to refine their technique over the next few weeks. So don't worry too much if the way that they're playing these black key groups isn't perfect yet. It's okay. So I've given you 3 different accompaniments. The first one I suggest using just 2 black notes. So you can say to your student, use any of the 2 black note groups above middle C, and you can play along. It's a 12-bar blues, it goes like this. Now I've written it in a very simple way. Feel free to embellish and add some chords, offbeat, whatever you want to do, put on a backing track to play along with, whatever it is. That is a great fun way to start, and the student just... they can do whatever they want. This, of course, is a great opportunity for you to listen and hear what they're like. Are they feeling the rhythm? Are they getting the sense of style of the accompaniment that you're playing? All of them are really different. So this is an opportunity to work out whether they're listening and what their skills are like. And that's why I love doing improvisation from the beginning. And you can really do this for 5 or 10 minutes of the lesson because the students are going to love it. All right, the next improvisation I've given you is for the students to use with any of the 3 black note sets. And it goes like this, in 6/8. I tend to play them through, I say to the student, I'm going to play it through once first, have a listen to the feeling and the style and the speed first, and then give it a shot, rather than get them to start straight away. So that gets them listening, and then I say, okay, you ready? Let's give it a shot. And they'll hopefully take on a more connected or a more smooth and flowing approach to this one versus the jazzy one to start with. Improv number 3 is with any black note. So I tend to like starting with the 2 and then the 3 and then to any black note. And this one's just kind of a dreamier one, a little bit more chordal. Here's how it sounds. And you can repeat this any number of times. And there. All of these improvs are just designed for you to explore, experiment with, you can add a few other chords. They're all in G flat major or E flat minor. You can add some extra chords if you want. You can play them for a long time, a short time, whatever you want to do. It's totally up to you. All right, they're all there for you. So that's the next activity that I tend to do, that improvising on the black keys. Get students listening, gives you an opportunity to hear what they're thinking and sounding like and where the music's at. Okay, so the last activity for this first lesson is the animal improvisation story. Now, all kids get animals, which is great. And we've got a full range of the piano here to explore. So I start asking them questions, or we say, okay, the activity that you're going to do this week at home is to create a story about animals using any of the notes of the piano. And so we would talk perhaps about, well, what animal might be kind of low on the piano, and you could demonstrate what, if that was the steps of an animal, what animal would it be? I might say it's a dinosaur or an elephant or something like that. Great. And what if we did some... twinkly stuff up here. What animal might that be? Well, it could be, I don't know, ants or something like that. What about in the middle? Well, that could be, I don't know, a duck or a meerkat. I don't know. Kids will come up with all sorts of weird and crazy ideas about animals, right? So start exploring those sounds with them and get them to see if they can, without shuffling their bottom across the bench too much, if they can play something down low. Can they do it on 2 notes and keep a steady beat? Could they do a little twinkly thing? Maybe if they can reach the pedal comfortably, they could press the pedal and do some pedally stuff. What about this sound? Is that an animal, or is that a shooting star, or who knows? This is what it's all about for me, exploring the sounds of the piano. So what I asked them to do then is choose just 2 animals to make a story. And the story I've given you an example of is one that I like using with my students, is the elephant and the ant. What's going to happen? So let's come up with a story. So the elephant's walking along, and so, or maybe you can pick 2 notes. And the ants, he sees the ants running around, and then the ants head down towards him, and he starts trampling on them, or he starts dancing around them. I don't know, whatever it is. You'll be amazed at the kind of creative things that students come up with when given the opportunity to do this. I had a student come back with this story about ducks. These 3 black sets were all about ducks quacking at each other or something like that. And then I can't remember what happened. Some animal came along and shooed them away or something. Get the student to just explore and have fun. And try one in a lesson, depending on how much time you've got. And then say to them, all right, I would love for you to come up with a new animal improvisation over the course of the week. Come up with something new. So the practice notes for this week are: 1, come up with a new animal improv story. Number 2 would be to teach your parents how to sit at the piano. So grab mum or dad or brother or whoever it is and get them to sit at the piano and make sure they're sitting in the right way. They don't need one of these. I only use these in lessons, but they could, make sure they tap the different parts that Linda would be checking. And you could ask mum and dad if they're in the lesson, make sure you sit really badly or, cross your leg or whatever it is, so that the student can help get your sitting position right, and it reinforces their learning about it. So they're coming up with their animal story. They could do it with any number of different animals. They could do a number of different stories. Whatever it is fine. Birds, bees are great. Ants, any of those are fantastic. And the other thing I always get them to do is keep playing along to the 3 backing tracks. So what I would recommend is that you grab your phone and, here's my phone. Grab your phone, put the voice recorder on, and record yourself playing these backing tracks over and over, a number of times. You only have to do this once for a child, save them to your computer, and then you could give them to each child that becomes a beginner. You don't have to do this each time, but have ready some backing tracks that you can share with mum or dad by email or Dropbox so that they can keep playing along at home. And one of the first things we're going to do in lesson 2 is actually have a listen to how those improvisations might have improved and how their rhythm's going and all that kind of stuff. So that's the first lesson in my No Book Beginners. It sounds really simple. I know I've not blown anyone's minds with any of this stuff. It may be things you do already, but hopefully if it's not something you've tried before, you've got some new ideas about what you can do. So next lesson, we're going to have a listen to those improvisations, and we're then going to move to the white notes. We're going to revise the sitting position. We'll hear their animal improv, and if they're really enjoying it, we could even come up with one more. We're going to work on and explore 3/4 versus 4/4, so duple and triple meter times. We're going to move to the music. I've got an activity with some echo singing and echo playing back. And we're going to start learning the words for a song and chant them in time to a beat. So that's lesson 1. I really, really hope you've enjoyed that today, and I look forward to seeing you in lesson number 2. Make sure for full details of how you can get the lesson plan for this and all the other lessons in my Inner Circle community, you can head to timtopham.com/beginners to find out more information. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon.